Welcome to X-Men Evolution episode 44, which is kicking off the final season of Evolution here on Cyclops is Waiting for Me, an X-Men animated recap podcast. I'm JC. Some quick reminders. By the time this has gone live, I will have been a guest on a show called Locks of Labs. I'll make sure to put the comments or put the link in the description. It's wow. We're off to a hell of a start.
You'll find the thing.
Yeah. And then quick reminder, our most recent 2 episodes in the feed, if you haven't seen them, if you're finding it just because you're searching X-Men Evolution, we had the voice of Magneto from X-Men 97, as well as the voice of Morph from X-Men 97 on our 2 most recent episodes. And something I have to show off since this is the first time we've recorded since LA Comic-Con, we have...
Oh, yeah.
JP Karliak has signed the Morph VHS action figure, and I also got...
With his favorite quote on there, too.
Morph Smash.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Then we also got Holly signing on Jubilee.
Nice.
Is there in the corner. It's hard to tell because of the gold.
Like gold.
And then also writing Cyclops is Waiting for Me on it, Catherine Disher, who was the voice of the original Jean Grey. And my favorite part of her seeing this was her reaction was, whoever made these should have gotten a promotion. And I agree with her. Unfortunately, they've only done the 1 series of them, which is shocking that they haven't done the series 2 of these yet. So
yeah, I guess you'd hope to think that's in the pipeline, right, with the success of the show.
I would hope so, because they only got through 8 of the characters of the original series. So
yeah,
there's way more to go.
I still have the one you got me that's out of the box, but like I've been accessorizing him. So I don't know if you noticed on our Instagram, he was in a beach chair for the summer. He has a little McDonald's pumpkin bucket for the fall. I don't have any Christmas stuff picked out yet, but we'll see how it goes. I'm treating him like a Barbie doll.
We could get those mini candy canes, but in his scale, it'll look like a giant candy cane.
I mean, technically, this is too big, too. Like, this is the size of, like, a motorcycle helmet.
Mm-hmm.
For it.
It's true.
But anyway, and I'm Rod. And today I'm just, I'm not even physically tired, just like a little social batteried out. The people who watch both this podcast and my music podcast can tell which days I'm filming certain things, because I'm wearing this shirt in another episode that you might be seeing by now. It's been a long day.
Now that we are recording these with video, I am especially conscious of making sure, like, yes, if we do 2 or 3 episodes in the same day, I'm not swapping shirts in between them.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking, wait, did I wear that on the last recording? Right. That's actually a conscious thought in my head now.
So it's not 6 in a row.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a great moment with Funhouse where at one point the guys were like, did we play this game before? And they looked up an old video and they were playing the game before, and 2 of the 3 guys were wearing the same shirt.
That's so
and this
funny.
was like a year and a half prior. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I finally, I was just talking with a mutual friend of ours, actually, Ryan over at Superbam, about my videos, about something, and I realized I'm like 535 TikToks in now. I'm just hitting that threshold now where I'm like, did I talk about that song? Let's scroll back. I don't remember anymore. Anyway.
This is why I have a spreadsheet for this show.
Yeah. Anyway, this show, Cyclops is Waiting for Me, as our weekly podcast series. We're going back and watching every single X-Men animated episode we can find. We're running low, to be honest. we're in the final season of Evolution.
We got some stuff to announce for 2025, so we'll worry about that in December.
This podcast started with the original 1992 X-Men the Animated Series, building up to the release of X-Men 97. Along the way, we've launched our companion show, the Xavier Files, which is... there was a while we were talking about that, and there was only a couple episodes out, but it's a full-fledged series now. There's like a number of them. We talked to, like you just mentioned, like a few of the voice actors. Punker Ducky's a shit poster, you know, so there's a lot of cool people and more on the way.
We have more on the way that until they're booked officially, I don't want to jinx this, but we have some cool people from all parts of the crew. So
yeah. And since season 2 of X-Men 97 is quite a ways off because of animation, contrary to popular belief, there's not like a single creator animating and voicing every single character in light speed. It takes a literal team of hundreds.
Am I allowed to scream at Jake to get his shit together and get it out ASAP? I can say that to Jake. He likes us, right?
He's supposed to just think about it and then it happens, right? Like that's how.
He's not even the writer, and I just want to scream at him to get it done.
So we're back to the second, and even more than half of our watch through of X-Men Evolution. We're on, like you mentioned, we're on our final season. Just like no context spoiler. I feel like we're finally hitting where this is like a superhero show. So I'm kind of excited to talk about this episode.
Yep. Some quick reminders. We're a recap show about a series that started over 20 years ago. There are going to be spoilers. If you don't want it spoiled for you, I would suggest that you pause the podcast, watch the episode, then come back and listen to the podcast, because the most important part is listening to our podcast. We're not currently sponsored or affiliated with Marvel Animation, Disney, or Disney Plus in any way, but I will give it a disclosure. For a few weeks, I was doing a subcontracting job for a company that was doing some marketing for Hulu. When that was happening, there was nothing I was doing that was tied to the Marvel Animation properties or anything like that. But just for sake of disclosure, I thought it was important to share that once. So. Yeah.
And of course, everybody here knows, like, we're friendly with various people involved in the show and stuff. That's pretty much out in the open. Either we've talked to them on.
You mean me screaming at Jake? Was friendly? Got it.
Yeah. Or like on social media and stuff. So, don't forget, speaking of social media, don't forget to follow us there on Cyclops IWFM Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Twitter. I think the final exodus of Twitter is finally happening, right? The artists left, so now it's going to be kind of...
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I just post on it because it's still easy to post on it. The reason I forget to post on Threads, and definitely have forgotten to post on Blue Sky, one is I haven't made us a Blue Sky account, so I should probably do that. But I have to send any files to my phone, download them, and then separately upload it. Like, the meta uploader is not good. We're not going to pretend the meta uploader is good, as Rod can vouch because issues. Yeah. But I can't upload Threads from the meta uploader, and I just forget.
Oh, yeah. Although Threads, it does have the desktop site, but it's not a scheduling thing, which is really annoying.
But that's all I care about is the scheduling part.
Yeah, and also Facebook, which is... sure, that's there.
Every now and then, one of our videos on Facebook will just get like a batch of views like 6 weeks later. I do not understand our Facebook algorithm. I don't care about our Facebook algorithm. It's there. Yeah. If you comment there, I'll see it. So,
and of course, the most important part: follow us on your favorite podcasting service. Leave comments or any related, hopefully positive feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and apologies if there's ever comments that we don't get a chance to reply to. There has been an influx in comments, which is always great because the algorithm loves comments. But at the same time, there are certain times where it's people leaving a comment about a character, an episode, a moment, and I don't necessarily have a response for it because it's just like, yes. Yeah. I don't want to reply back yes to you if it's just confirming your accuracy. So anybody who is doing that, please don't take it personal. If you ask questions and stuff, I'll jump in on that kind of stuff though.
And for me, I usually just forget it's there. Or
you forget to upload to certain sites.
Oh yeah, for weeks. What did I just upload 6 weeks worth of short
something content? Like that.
Or if you ask a question, it's more than a week ago and I've literally forgotten what we had talked about.
It's true. Anytime that Rod leaves in the edit, future John, remember to post this, that is literally when I remember to grab what I need to post to throw it into our feed. So
same. I do the same thing.
Yep. Now on to the show. How long did we get through before we actually talked about the show?
Under 10 minutes, so it's good.
Under 10 minutes, so it's not that bad. Today we are talking about Season 4, Episode 1, titled Impact. It aired on August 30th, 2023. Sits at a 7.6 star...
Right?
Sorry, 2000.
It's been a night.
No, you're right. You're right. It currently sits on a 7.6 star rating on IMDb. And just a quick reminder, this episode aired 1 week following Cruise Control, which was 2 weeks after what was originally supposed to be the season finale. And the irony is the timeline of the episode is that this happened 2 weeks after the events of that episode.
Yeah, it really does give that Cruise Control was the like the emergency episode, right? for the network? Like if they needed to just throw something into the timeline?
I don't know, man, because it's like, we all know it was out of place because they end their seasons on two-parters and stuff like that. It's just so random, but it actually also worked out. Mm-hmm. And also the scheduling aspect, the fact that it was
right before,
no weeks in between their season 3 finale and their season 4 kickoff too. So,
that's really interesting, especially for a show aimed towards like a younger audience. So they didn't take a summer break, you know?
Well, they did. They took a break from like March to August.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I mean, like for the seasons, I guess, like where like the cliffhanger, you know, the Who Shot Mr. Burns didn't happen right before school let out, and then
which is a reference to
Who Shot JR.
There you go, making sure.
I only knew that because that's what The Simpsons said it was. I never actually watched JR.
I mean, we're both in our 4th decade of life. Mm-hmm. No, we've never watched that show. We've never watched Dallas. So yeah.
This was the first time a previously on was like actually kind of useful. I guess no, I take that back. If it was only 1 week later, then probably not. I guess. Well, I don't know. There's cruise control, later. So sure.
Yeah. But when we were watching through Peek Behind the Curtain, I watched it about a day before Rod did, and I was like, okay, I have to watch it. And all I'm hoping is that this episode does not start literally 14 seconds after the conclusion of the other episode. Like I wanted there to be a lull during like the cruise control week, so this wasn't completely awkward and out of place.
It's like it wasn't, but also it's kind of like that problem in the Venom movie. Well, one of the problems in the Venom movies, where like there was that thing in the first Venom movie, I think, where Venom took 6 months to get like across a very small body of water or whatever. So
I love that you're talking about Venom and there's a motorcycle which sounds like it's growling outside of my window right now.
There you go, the symbiote is there.
Yeah.
So this one is like, yeah, it technically wasn't right after, but that's also like a significant amount of time for what is the events of this show happening, plus adding in the context of most of the team went on a cruise.
Mm-hmm. They went on, I love the thought that it's like, well, we just had our most major fuck up ever. We're going to go on a cruise.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so they recap just all the stuff that had to do with Mesmero and Apocalypse, right? With like the Guardian Spider that Magneto messed up and Rogue.
Yep. Rogue, the Sphinx moments, Mystique turning into the Rock, and then, you know, the Apocalypse ass kicking of all the parties.
Yeah.
By the way, I forgot that they left behind the Brotherhood kids during that flashback. I was like, oh yeah, he could have had like the Scarlet Witch and he only had Quicksilver. That was a choice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, with the events of this in the next episode, she really is kind of like, she kind of breaks a lot of plots, right? If you really think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the episode kicks off and they're on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. And the Apocalypse teleporter ship thingy is on top of a pyramid. I was very proud of myself that I actually knew that was Mayan.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I forgot.
And then it does this really cool, like, shatter reveal to show that underneath the rock structure is this classic, like, high technology. I don't necessarily want to call it celestial technology, but it's kind of what it feels like, you know?
Yeah, it's like a tech version of the futuristic tech version of like an Egyptian pyramid, right? In Mexico. It was like
right,
kind
because
of like weird out of place kind of thing.
Because his thing pops up on top of it, and that's what completes like the classic Egyptian pyramid style to it.
So that's the part that I was thinking was kind of like the interesting timing, because yes, it wasn't seconds later, presumably, but that also means that teleportation took a couple weeks.
Maybe he was doing like really small jumps, like he was only going like 45 miles away and had to chill and recover before he'd get to Mexico.
Yeah, or maybe that transformation was a time lapse. It took a while for the thing to shed its skin.
Yeah. But then this big like black dome, and maybe it's just me, but the things that are reminiscent of Agatha all along in these two episodes that we're recording, it very much gave me that the vibe of the city from Agatha.
Yeah, and WandaVision, right?
Yes,
like both plots. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. The dome from that city. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's just it kind of makes you wonder: was there even a subliminal, like, kind of suggesting, or is this just inherent to those two stories? The Wanda Agatha stories.
I mean, because this was well before the Simpsons movie, where Mr. Burns made a dome across all of Springfield and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe it's just like all stories are cyclical, and it will come back in one form or another at some point.
Yeah, well, because even the Simpsons acknowledged that they kind of redid what Stephen King did with the dome.
Oh yeah. So maybe this was a Stephen King reference.
There you go.
Yep. And that's where we cut into our intro. Coming out of the intro, and from what I understand, it is the same intro for the remainder of the show, so we do not need to watch it anymore. This is the final version.
I watched this one just because it was the first of the new season, and I if anything changed, I didn't notice. I think I figured out why it's not as memorable, though, is because it's clips of the show, which is of its time period, but I think time has shown us that a unique intro has a higher chance of being memorable than like a clips section.
Yeah, it's the same reason why Pride of the X-Men's intro, which I didn't have a problem with the song. It was very of its time. Mm-hmm. But every single thing in that intro was a clip from that episode. So
I had a problem with the song.
I know you did. I mean, it could have been the X-Men 92 Japanese theme song. That is a fucking wild theme song.
I mean, I think that's pretty cool. It's not the one I grew up with, but the Pride of the X-Men one, that was like a soap commercial.
Yeah. Maybe we should do a mini episode one day just about the animated intro from Japan.
Sure, we can talk just the various intros, kind of comparing them, because Lego just released their recreation of the intro, right? And
was it Lego official or was it a fandom?
It was Lego official because it was to promote the X-Men 97 Mansion Lego set.
Yeah, that add to cart.
Now the thing that drives me crazy is, I guess they couldn't use the license for the actual theme song, so it's just some like generic rock track, which just, most things that would be fine, but I think in this specific instance, that just kind of breaks your brain, right? Not just a music person, but just like as a fan of that show, like,
especially if you're seeing the visuals of it. Yeah. So starts off with this person walking up to the front of the Sphinx, and apparently it's able to reseal the staircase and put sand back on top of it. I don't know. And this is me being ignorant to Egypt. Like, I don't know how much the sand blows in that area, if like 2 weeks later it would actually cover itself or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just pretty easily, it looked like nothing had happened there. And as it opens up, this guy says Apocalypse, so there's indication that the locals have some idea of who Apocalypse is and that they should be worshipping him, even if it was a little bit of like a culty vibe to it. And then it's Gambit.
I still can't get used to that voice either.
Yeah. Also, it is not a white Cajun man who does the voice for it either.
Oh, really?
So it's, yeah, I saw him pop up on the IMDb, and it was like, oh, okay, there we go. This is a very different Gambit than who we are used to. So
yeah, well, good for the voice actors.
See down in there. The dude starts to run off, and then Gambit trips him with his cane or pole or bow staff.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yep. Pyro is searching down below, and by searching, he's just lighting rooms on fire.
That'd be my approach.
Yep. Colossus is punching through walls, which seems safe in an underground cavern. And then we see Magneto brings over Mastermind, and it's like, check his brain, see if he knows everything. And essentially, it's the same story, doesn't know anything more than what the other people have. And Gambit's trying to be like, do we really have to worry about this? And Magneto's attitude, he gets like hyper defensive of Apocalypse ruling over the area. Mm-hmm. So
he's like, well, if anybody's going to control the world, it's going to be me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then flash over to the mansion. Xavier is using Cerebro and detecting more mutants and not doing anything about it.
I thought about that too. He's like, oh, there's some new mutants. Anyway, I can't find Apocalypse. We're like, what?
Yeah, it just totally glances over that there are new mutants emerging. This is such a weird Xavier, dude.
Right. I have some more qualms with him a little bit later.
Yeah.
And also Beast is there and just not questioning it either. He's like, okay, that's cool. Anyway.
Yeah. I like that Beast is doing research by watching the news. Like, that's literally, he's like, yeah, I haven't heard anything about anything that could be related to Apocalypse. And then immediately it's like Xavier jumps to, well, I think that the Eye of Ages is the key to everything. And there's not mentioned the entire rest of the episode either.
I was also wondering, that didn't come up last time either, right?
It was his thingy. That was just like the thing he slept in, right?
Oh, okay. Because the picture made it look small. Okay, that makes more sense. That it was his like coffin essentially.
It's either the coffin thing he slept in or the teleporty thing, but one of the two. But I was like, yeah, it's the key to whatever. And I'm like, is that really that important right now? Okay,
I love his response. Even was like, I don't know what it does or its significance. We're like, then how do you know that it's the key to anything?
Yeah. And then it's like, well, how are the kids doing? And they're doing what kids do. They blow off steam, which, I mean, they just got back from a Caribbean cruise, so they've been doing okay.
I guess, what? Considering kids, I guess the cruise makes sense now. Storm might be the one I'm worried about.
Yeah, like, how was Storm okay with this?
That's why she had her little blow up on the ship. She was like, the world's ending, and you snuck off the ship?
And then we get mutant dodgeball.
Oh, that's right, because basketball turned into dodgeball because everybody's like setting things on fire.
Oh, sorry, mutant basketball. Jesus Christ, but it's still, I am off my game today.
But it's still, no, you're right though. It still kind of was dodgeball because like Sunspot like set the thing on fire and threw they're still doing the same. They're just throwing this ball around. Like none of those things would be allowed in any like if traveling by carrying more than a couple steps. Was the thing like setting the fucking basketball on fire and throwing it through the backboard would definitely be
and kicking it because isn't kickball a rule in basketball? You cannot kick the ball.
You have to dribble it.
You got Rogue and Wolverine who are by the fountain, and it's kind of still in line with Rogue not being on the cruise and not being okay with everything. Mm-hmm. And Wolverine points out, it's not her fault. She does the I'm fine. But she's bothered because apparently they've kept the Mystique stone statue there for 2 weeks, which is really, I get it because you want to try to undo whatever Apocalypse did, but at the same time, it's like, that's this girl's mom. Right. Like, it's her stepmom. And then they gave it to the Brotherhood without telling her.
Yeah, my note.
What the fuck?
My note here was they gave Stone to Mystique to Brotherhood, and the Brotherhood is just literally messing around with her corpse.
Yeah, and Rogue gives the good riddance on it, and Toad is dancing with it. Blob decides to cut in and just is like, I'm gonna go put her on the roof and make her like a gargoyle and stuff like that. It's really. I don't even know if it's disrespectful is even the appropriate. It's fucking weird. That's the thing, it's weird.
It is accurate to how a bunch of teenage boys would be like if they got a concrete statue suddenly thrust on them. Although I'm kind of with Blob. I think having someone you kind of disliked as a gargoyle is fucking hilarious.
At that time, you get a quick flashover back to to Mexico, and there's two guys in the jungle who had to be a visual reference to somebody. They looked too well drawn and thought out, but no idea who they actually are supposed to be. And they're the ones who see the dome pop up or being on top of it. I call bullshit. All of those things are giant tourist traps.
Yeah.
There is no way that there was an unknown temple at this point in modern history.
Yeah. So, and also that dome was over the tree line.
Yes.
So you could just see it from a distance.
Yeah. Yeah, if anybody had a helicopter from any sort of distance, they would have seen this thing. Yeah. Back in Bayville, Rogue is sitting in the chilling in the gazebo. Nightcrawler pops up, and we get kind of this mini ongoing joke of you got to stop popping up in front of people, and he's worried about Mystique being at the Brotherhood, which I get because
Fair.
It makes sense. He's younger, he's not as jaded. If you follow like the character arc of Nightcrawler and other versions of him, he's the more forgiving one in most cases when it comes to Mystique at any point anyway. So it all makes sense. But he's like, she should be with us, and Rogue is not about it.
I don't know if I would be like, she belongs with us. I would be like, if there's a variable out there, I'd rather be it in our eyesight, you know?
So would your interpretation from the show be that like she's still possibly alive kind of scenario from what he's seen as a character?
From stuff that happens later, yes.
Right.
From what's happening right now, I think he's just a kid that misses his mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not a big proponent of
who hasn't talked about his step parents in God knows how long.
Yeah, and also like I'm also not a big like proponent of just because they're blood, they're family either. You know, like granted that does have value in it, but if you've been mistreated as badly as these three are, you know, like to each other, I don't know if it's as important. But yeah, like you said, I think he's just young and just like he's trying to cling on to that hope that there's going to be some sort of normalcy between two blue people that were estranged for years.
Right. Over at the Brotherhood, Nightcrawler arrives as Toad and Blob are debating what they're going to do next with her, which at this point, if she's technically still alive, would be considered murder because they're like, we're going to turn her into a fountain. The only way you turn her into a fountain is by drilling through her.
Yeah.
And then what we've referenced in both this show as well as X-Men 92, the jokes and stuff usually end up being written by that generation's own original pop culture references, because the Mystique falls over, which that thing is solid because it does not want a chip or anything like that. I would have worried about it breaking right there. But Toad does the like tap on the forehead. It does the McFly, which is from Back to the Future.
Oh, okay. I said because I knew McFly from Back to the Future, but I didn't remember that moment. It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Now that you started saying that, I'm blanking on the name of the bully, but he did that to McFly, the family of bullies.
Gotcha. Okay.
The guy who had like a car rental shop in like the 2030s or whatever it was.
Sure. I'll look it up. Biff. Oh, yeah,
yes. Yep. There we go. Scarlet Witch is kind of like, just what the fuck is wrong with you is essentially her attitude to them. But also mentions like, well, maybe she's actually alive and we could get Agatha Harkness to save her.
Yeah, I was just sitting there like, what a time to be watching this specific episode.
It was the perfect timing, in addition to the fact that it wraps up for us literally the week of Christmas. But aside from that perfect timing, it's also when this episode airs, the finale is 2 days later, I believe, in real time. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah,
because
it's a double episode finale. I believe.
Yeah, so that we have 3 more. Yeah, so yeah, and it's just funny because I think I'd seen Agatha in previous comics, but just not known who she was because she was kind of unimportant before. And so like my concrete, no pun intended, I didn't think about that, image
it wasn't Agatha, concrete, it wasn't a good pun anyway, don't worry,
of Agatha, it has been Catherine Hahn. And so when they're like, oh, bring Agatha Harkness in, it's like the first image that pops up in my head is Catherine Hahn, and then like, but I know intellectually that it's going to be this like animated frail old woman.
And up until Catherine Hahn, that's what the character always was the frail old woman. So it's like, I think it was a harder thing for me to transition to like accepting Catherine Hahn as Agatha.
Yeah.
No. Whereas for you, you're like, I don't know, she was probably mentioned on like one trading card in 1994, so.
Yeah, if that, and I might have just thought she was Aunt May.
She looks a little bit like some versions of Aunt May.
Right. And then that reminded me, like, oh yeah, and that's Wanda. I mean, I know it's Wanda, but it's like that's Wanda.
Yeah. Yep. Scarlet Witch sees Nightcrawler. There's a moment where it's like she's gonna blast him. Cut to commercial. Immediately come back from commercial, and then it's almost like the Batman Superman moment where it's like, please stop, it's my mom. And it was like, it wasn't as bad as Martha, but it had a little bit of a Martha vibe to it.
I guess he was trying to appeal to the other character that still kind of cared about her parents.
Yeah, and they also had a mini moment in that episode where she got brainwashed too.
Yeah.
So I think there was that little bit of like she owed him a favor, and whether or not she called it that, this was her paying that favor back kind of scenario.
So they're all very comfortable with each other, like intruding on each other's homes at this point. Like, I mean,
they've tried to like kill each other, and everybody's been okay with it.
Like, she's startled, obviously, but it was just a little calm for like someone teleporting to their home.
I guess when you live with like Blob and Lance and Toad and Quicksilver, like it's kind of par for the course. So she's almost desensitized to it.
Right. That's why she's always in like the full uniform. She's always have to be ready.
Her uniform is just like, I'm the edgier version of Rogue.
Yeah.
And that pause allows Kurt to teleport out with Mystique. In the catacombs, those are catacombs under the Sphinx, right? Yeah, let's go with catacombs.
Yeah.
Colossus is coming back from exploring, and then he kind of gets a little bit of like a riot act read to him where it's, I was expecting people to get back to me every 30 minutes, and like Magneto is just like pissed and shitty, and Colossus like nuts up to him. He's like, all right, let's go then.
Yeah.
And Magneto's ready to go. He's like, you don't get to use my metal against me. And Colossus fucks him up a little bit without powers.
I was kind of hoping to seeing a little bit more before
like a punch across the face or something like that
before Gambit intervened, because I hadn't thought about that, because we're so used to Magneto just being OP. And I don't think we've ever seen I don't think I've ever seen Magneto attack Colossus like I think that he should with the magnetism, but then especially to see Colossus just drop the metal, such cool like writing.
It's really, really smart. It's like, okay, well, the only way this is going to be fair is for me to actually not have powers.
Yeah.
So I kind of dig that. It's like, I'm still that much of a badass.
Yeah, I'm going to beat the senior citizen's ass with my own bands.
Dude, the roided out senior citizen.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. But we do get full confirmation about the family aspect, and it's implied that it's more than just his sister. It's family, meaning multiple people.
Yeah, so maybe his like wife and kid, or possibly extended family. So
I was gonna say mother, father, and sister, and maybe brother, because he does have a brother who's a piece of shit in the comics.
And even Gambit kind of alludes to like, well,
we're stuck.
I don't love him, but he's our best chance at something against something worse. So this is kind of like the situation that we're in.
Right. Back at the mansion, there's a lot of teleporting back and forth in stuff, and not even teleporting as in Nightcrawler, but just like our view.
Yeah, because real quick.
He has the statue in his room, and he's kind of giving like that monologue of like all the things you wish you could say to a bad parent of why were you never there? Why were you always so angry? Stuff like that. Rogue comes in. Rogue is pissed. Obviously she was glad to have this out of the mansion, and then essentially gives an ultimatum of like, this thing leaves or I leave.
Well, yeah, which I get, because it's like a physical reminder of like literally the worst parts of her life up to that point.
Yeah. Kurt's response is, you can't let or her anger destroyed her, you can't let it destroy you. And Rogue's like, it already did. And as she walks out, we see one drop of water or tear, whatever your interpretation of it is, hit the ground, and then another one coming out of the eye. And then you see over in one of the many medical bays that this school has, Beast has like these little like conductors on it and stuff like that. And both Xavier and Beast are like, yeah, there's nothing we could do. That was condensation.
Is that how it works on Like, I guess we don't know what kind of rock it is because it's animated, but...
And I guess if they teleported it outside and it was like chilly and warmer, and there, or like the reverse of that, like there was something, maybe like condensation happens with air conditioner units, but just a regular stone.
Yeah, and on one eye.
I guess, because maybe it's like that's where it collects and becomes the droplet. I don't know.
Sure.
Yep. Jean comes in, says that there's a report on television, and it's all the stuff that's going down in Mexico. They get onto the jet without Kurt. They leave behind Storm and Bobby, and this is actually where we get the confirmation that everything happened 2 weeks ago. That's where it gets mentioned. I feel like it's a weird choice to leave behind Storm.
Does that mean they were on the... No, they weren't on the cruise at this time because there's kids that were at the... I don't know.
No, it's definitely they came back from the cruise.
Yeah.
Like that was a 1 week cruise at the right time, apparently.
Well, I just thought because Bobby and Storm were such prominent characters in the cruise story. But yeah, what's interesting, they were just like, we don't have budget for 2 voice actors. Who do we have to write out?
But it's like, it's also the perspective of, we're going to do a recon mission. This is strictly fact-finding. And you don't bring Storm, who has an understanding of elements as a part of her power.
Oh, yeah.
But you bring Wolverine?
Ah. Well, yeah, this is also a toned-down Wolverine, right?
I mean, I guess the thought of Wolverine is like, oh, if something does hit the fan and somebody needs to be, like, melted, like, it could be his arm and it'll grow back kind of scenario. Mm-hmm. But it felt weird. Like, Bobby, I get. Bobby's a fuck-up idiot. So, I just don't agree with leaving Storm behind there. But
I guess if it was any other scenario that they were doing a fact-finding mission on, I would say Wolverine would be useful because of his, like, senses, his smelling and stuff. Mm-hmm. But they can find where the giant electrical dome is. Like, that's not hard to spot.
And I think Storm would be better at setting up the sensors and such rather than Wolverine. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so quick shot in Egypt. Magneto decides to make a ball out of all these weapons that have been, like, strewn about within that chamber within it. And he's like, nope, going alone, leaving you fuckers behind. And his phrasing was, this is between 2 higher evolutionaries and only one is going to survive.
It's dark, but also, like, how long has it taken him to be this real,
Do you know what it felt like? You've seen the meme where it's Magneto is like, sorry, 5s, you have 10s talking to each other.
From 97.
And Storm is like, well, I'm an 11, but I'll let this slide. Yeah. That was the energy when he's like, there are 2 higher evolutionaries that are going to meet. That's totally what that vibe was for me.
Yeah, because he's like, you're less than pawns. Like, if you any of these acolytes end up in the presence of Apocalypse, they'll just be vaporized, which, foreshadowing.
And none of them did anything during their first encounter with him either.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, you guys were literally useless.
I did like, though, that we got to see, like, kind of where, like, the orbs come from. Like, they're not some...
of him creating it.
Yeah, they're not just, like, magical things. It's just him, like, pulling minerals from, like, wherever he's at to, like, make that happen.
Right. So, again, feeling very much like WandaVision.
Yeah.
The dome is surrounded by tanks and helicopters, and everybody's, like, circling around it. And it was... Dude, it totally feels like the city from WandaVision in that vibe.
Westview, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, except it was purple or blue instead in this show.
Yeah, that was the only difference instead of it being red. Yeah. And obviously not made by Scarlet Witch.
That we know of yet. Oh, this show could go wherever.
So Xavier is talking to the generals, and it's like, yep, we're not going to get a whole lot of time. They don't really trust us, which understandable.
Fair, because to their knowledge, one of them is the one that made this dome thing happen, because they probably don't know about Apocalypse, right?
I imagine not, no. I guarantee you, especially military at that time, is just like, humans, mutants, blow up this side,
The only way that they might have known is if we got, like, a Nick Fury cameo, and they're like, oh, this is the thing we were talking about. but they didn't.
But I don't think Nick Fury even has that kind of data, because it's the early internet world at this point. Like, there's not closed circuit TV and stuff like that readily available for him to like do face tracking, and also it's at a Mayan pyramid, so I doubt that they had cameras ready to go at any given time.
Yeah, I just think he ends up being like the wild card, the free, like, get out of jail free card whenever they're like in a plot hole. They're like, oh, Nick Fury knew about this.
Yeah. Also, there is a recent book where you have Nick Fury, classic Nick Fury, talking to his son, modern Nick Fury, on Earth, which doesn't happen very often, and it's tied to an X-Men book, which I do love that is a thing that's going on right now.
Nice.
Yep. X-Men all individually use their powers to set up the sensors. Wolverine digs a hole using his claws, which is great use of, his claws. And they set up these beams that just shoot into the dome, and then they just like gets a feedback loop and they all blow up.
Yeah. I also like how when you said shoot beams, Cyclops behind you shot beams. Like, timing.
Yeah, he's doing that. I just try to avoid having him turn back into the clock, apparently. We also see a quick shot of Magneto's ball, which becomes a bullet.
Yeah, so actually, when it was traveling through the air getting to the temple earlier, it kind of reminded me of, remember Flight of the Navigator? When that's
Never saw it.
Oh my God, really? I would recommend watching it, but with your like 12-year-old goggles on. Is it a good movie now? Probably not. But late 80s.
So Flight of the Navigator, Joe versus the Volcano. Those are on my 2 watch lists from you. Got
Flight of the Navigator, way higher than Joe versus the Volcano. I mean, I love Joe versus the Volcano, but Flight of the Navigator, it's essentially that silver ship is a similar thing, but it changes shape from like a sphere to like the more pointed like teardrop to the bullet that you were talking about.
Jean and Xavier are trying to like sense anything, and they're not getting anything through it. We get a quick shot where Nightcrawler is at the Brotherhood house, talks to Wanda, and is like, hey, can you help me meet Agatha Harkness? There's just lots of back and forth stuff that feels very unnecessary from a travel perspective in this episode. I'm
also so, like, I'm not used to hearing any version of Nightcrawler say Agatha Harkness. It's like weird, especially because he's not necessarily in this show, but I know Nightcrawler is a very devout Catholic. It's for him to request
a Salem witch,
an actual witch, like not suspected witch, but like historically
actual witch.
A witch
who helped train the witch that's standing in front of him.
Yeah, that is definitely tied to that universe's devil. That's so weird. It's so funny though.
Sorry for that awkward pause. But Fast and Furious is going strong tonight.
Family.
I loved our comments online about that. Anyway, Beast decides to give Kitty these gloves that are going to protect her, which I don't believe those are going to protect her. I think her hands are going to be cut off, right?
They put that girl through so many dangerous situations. They put her in scuba gear and told her to go down to the pyramids. Like,
she is not good at staying phased, as we will see in the next episode. This version of Kitty always like unphases at the wrong time, and like 3 times it has knocked her out because she's run into a wall.
Yeah, and also nobody knows what that dome is made out of, to the point where particle beams and that Jean and Xavier's thoughts can't get through.
And it's everything they're doing is such a non-factor that Apocalypse hasn't even come out to check them yet. Like, that's how little they're doing and how strong this dome is that, like, he doesn't care that there are tanks surrounding him. He's from ancient Egypt. He doesn't know what a fucking tank is, and he's not bothered by it.
You know, with them sending Kitty to, like, just stick her hands into the thing kind of gives me the same energy of, like, when you're getting x-rays at the dentist, and they're like, don't worry, it's completely safe, and they go to another room with the goggles on.
They don't do that anymore.
Oh, really? Mine does.
Yeah. You and I have a different dentist. No, they now have something that's so isolated that they actually can be just like 5 feet away and not on the other side of a lead wall.
So while I'm getting procedure, is that while we're sitting in the chair, they can throw it on. There's another. What's the one that goes all the way around you? It's like a CT scan, I think.
Sure, let's go with that.
That's the one. I've had a lot of dental surgery this summer, so every time they need to check their work after they're done, they do the one. It goes all the way around me, and the entire staff leaves the room. And what's funny is like the workaround for that is like, you know how usually like the person's telling you like, okay, now you can step back or wherever. Since they can't be in the room, the machine plays classical music, and when the music stops, you can step back.
I love that.
Yep.
So they tell Kitty, don't phase all the way through, just let it go and then pull back. That, of course, has a feedback loop. It explodes. Scott wants to shoot stuff because that's what Scott wants to do. And Xavier stops him. He's like, no, we don't want any acts of aggression. And that's when you see the Magneto bullet come up. And I love the animation choice of the Magneto bullet because it goes up above and then literally reverses the shape of the bullet before it heads back down.
It's very anime, right?
It very much had an anime vibe to it.
And I thought the way they animated it, that it did... my note was actually it pierces the dome. Like, it looked like it actually did because of the way it went in. But I guess it just exploded.
That just shows you how strong the dome is. And then he starts picking up all of the tanks and stuff like that, which we would later see in Days of Future Past and stuff like that, where that's what they ended up doing with live action versions of Magneto. And but he's literally just pulling satellites out of the air and using them as like baseballs to throw them at this thing.
I think that part was a little excessive. It was like...
The satellites?
Yeah, it's like, how much power are you giving Magneto in this universe? Like,
I feel okay with that. Right. Again, this is steroid Magneto.
Yeah. Because those are like hundreds of miles away, right? The guy, like I think,
we're now that we're on camera, they get to see our science fact check. So,
but I think like
high
it did give a cool visual where like it kind of creates like comets or asteroids, coming down. But that's wild.
Low altitude satellites, depending on their orbit, can range from 300 kilometers to 36,000 kilometers above Earth. So 3,000 kilometers is about what?
I grew up in the American school system, so...
Yeah. That's about, I want to say, 150 miles up?
Google says close, 186.
Okay.
So, I'm not off.
I love the next autocomplete was in miles. Yep.
So, to 34... so, yeah, roughly, like, between at least a couple hundred miles to hundreds of miles.
Or he just grabbed the low altitude ones, which according to the second search with Google AI, so obviously I trust that, right, is only 80 miles away. So
okay, there you go.
Yep. And then at that point, that's when Apocalypse comes through and just throws them back at Magneto. I don't think this version of Apocalypse is supposed to like inherently have that as his own power. I think this is whatever he took through Rogue is now his power set. Like to your point where he basically got like the Shang Tsung effect, where it's whatever was pulled from other people and given into him, he now has a version of that power. So,
and just a reminder to everybody listening, like this is our first watch through, so I don't know if he ever
we could be very wrong.
I don't know if he ever gets to be like the roided out Apocalypse that we know. It's like barrel chested and everything.
Right.
As of right now, he's still like a corpse, but with an aura.
Yeah, he's not big enough to be cut yet.
Yeah.
And Magneto doesn't get hit by him as Apocalypse sends it back. And then my choice of phrasing here, Magneto gets wrapped in Sailor Moon light.
Oh, that makes so much more better sense than what I put. I put down pulls Magneto in and disappears him because I think we're supposed to get the impression that he died, but
that's the impression I think we're supposed to be given.
Obviously, that's not happening, right?
Right. And then he literally just eye fucks Xavier as he goes back down into the pyramid.
Yeah,
like Apocalypse is just staring him down like just this nasty way.
You're next. And Xavier and I think Logan, Scott, are just like, what the?
Yeah, like there's no way that, and they're just like everybody's in shock. Like this is fucked.
Yeah, because Magneto was the only one that was really had a chance, right? Like that was kind of the impression we were getting, and he was just kind of.
You always get the impression he's that much stronger than everybody else. So yeah, if he couldn't do it, we're all boned.
Yeah, and not even with a fight, he was like flicked away.
Yeah, it wasn't like some big drag out brawl. It was literally just like I said, Sailor Moon lights and just gone. Very pretty lights made him explode into glitter.
That would be great if a couple episodes from now we go inside the dome and he is in like a nice little like schoolgirl miniskirt and pigtails. He's like, what happened?
See, I don't think that happened because only one version of animated Magneto could be that horny in a thirst trap. So
there you go. Go back and watch our interview with Matthew Watterson where I was half high on dental anesthesia.
Yeah, we have to point out, Rod gets high for certain content, not usually for this show, but absolutely worked out that you were high at the tail end of that interview from dental anesthesia.
Yeah, and a little bit of follow-up on that. We both got to see most of the voice crew at LA Comic-Con. Also, thanks to JC for having me over for that. I got there a day before to pick up my passes and ran into Matthew and JP and stuff. And so Matthew was the first person I saw, and I was like, I was high during that interview and asked you if you knew how horny Magneto was. And he was like, yes, you did. Punker Ducky was there, and she was like, really?
Her of all people. I don't want to hear any fucking judgment from her about somebody talking horny about characters.
And he was like, but I answered, and I was like, you're right. But also, speaking of Punker Ducky, she messaged me this because we had the Cyclops is waiting for me account had posted that clip, and then I reposted it on my stories, and then Punker Ducky like commented, message or whatever that for me. Yeah.
People were saying that they want to actually start the petition to get Matthew on the steroids to do that cosplay.
So she like commented on my thing, or DM'd me replying to that story saying like, I mean, valid question. I was like, right? Anyway.
Yep. So perfect moment. Magneto's dead, and then we go to probably what I would say was the most shocking scene of the entire series for me.
Oh, the end of this episode?
Yeah.
I love it.
So, Nightcrawler's at the gazebo. Agatha walks up, and Agatha's basically like, I can't do shit. So I'm guessing the interpretation means that it's not magic that did it if Agatha can't do anything about it. Okay. That's my read on it. And I could be totally wrong on that, but Agatha somehow knows that Rogue is the one who can do it. And then they go through the phrasing of it's like, it's time to end the torment, meaning end Mystique's torment of being stuck in a rock. Mm-hmm. The only one who could do it is Rogue, and basically Rogue needs to just touch her very quickly enough to allow Mystique's powers to come back, and then she should be able to save herself kind of scenario. And then it's so awkward because Nightcrawler's like, yeah, you could do it. You do the right thing. And Rogue murders this woman. If you believe that she is still alive, Rogue murdered her.
Yeah, she pushes her through the railing of the gazebo off the cliff, and Mystique's stone corpse does the Homer Simpson down the gorge thing, and just not just breaks like in half or something, crumbles.
Yeah, and Nightcrawler teleports, and I was like, oh, is he going to get that nope, not getting the last minute save. He literally gets there in time to watch his mother's skull in rock form hit a giant rock and like just shatter across. Yeah. And they do like a slow-mo, including like slowing down his voice of him going no. And then she's crying and walks off, and that's how the episode ended. And I didn't want to spoil it for you because you watched the episode at a different time than me. Yeah. This isn't like when we watched 97 at the same time at midnight kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I didn't know if I was supposed to like laugh out of awkwardness. Like I was like, oh, she just murdered her. That's literally murder.
I love that because, man, whoever wrote this episode, like that was because the way that they obviously, like, they were trying to make it kind of like a metaphor that her touching Mystique was going to be like the physical manifestation of like that forgiveness, and she was going to let go of her trauma or whatever and stuff. It was going to be this touching moment. The music, I think, even got a little sentimental and stuff.
It did, because it gave you the impression that it was going to be like her like forgiving and saving the day. Yeah.
And then I loved that Rogue was like, too much. Like, we have to end this. But also it parallels X-Men 97 Rogue, you know, just being like, nah. Like, we're gonna drop you off the
drop edge. Yeah. And that's how the episode ended, and I was like, that is fucking dark. They need to address this hardcore. They don't address it in next week's episode.
Minor spoiler.
I won't say anything else, but they do not address it in one little bit in the next episode. So she just murdered her stepmom, and Nightcrawler just watched his stepmom get murdered. Yeah. That's literally what we just saw in front of us.
Yeah, I love that part. The only part I felt bad about was that version of Nightcrawler, because clearly he's just like a child, and he's down there weeping at the corpse of his broken mother or whatever. But like,
also, God. Agatha is just wandering the X-Men grounds now by herself. There's this little old magic woman who's wandering the grounds, and nobody seems to give a shit about it, so it's fine.
For all we know, she lives in those woods.
Yeah, she might. That's where she just she has a hut.
Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah, that basically sums up everything I thought about this episode. Was that last moment? Everything else was whatever. Okay, we get it. Apocalypse is tough. That's the takeaway from that part. But I love the boldness of the fuck Mystique.
Yeah. I get why it's, to your point, is it very much starts to feel like a superhero comic book show. Even though we didn't have like a big drag out fight, it feels like a superhero drama instead of a high school drama. But I was just like, oh wow, that went dark, man.
Yeah. Some big kid decisions.
Yep. And then the only piece of trivia for this episode, this is the first episode where they do not actually show the title of the episode at the beginning of it.
Oh, yeah.
If you come back from the intro credits, they actually don't say what the name of the episode is.
Yeah, you're right. That's interesting. They do a few things different on this season.
This season, yeah.
We don't know if that was intentional or budget cuts, but...
Right. So that wraps up the episode for us. Rod and I have to do one more. And as we said, this worked out well because of our 2 interviews that we had booked with JP and Matthew, that this is going to play out for the remainder of 2024. And the last episode, Christmas is on a Thursday or Tuesday or whatever.
Sure, that sounds fine.
Yeah, the last episode of Evolution will go live on your feed just before Christmas. We are going to have like a week or so off, and then that comes back after that. But that's future problems to worry about.
Yeah.
So
you have a new episode of the podcast to listen to when you're escaping your family and need to take a walk around the block to smoke a joint.
Yeah, it'll be great because from what we know, it ends on a cliffhanger, which is the best way to end a series.
Yep. You can go on your cousin walk.
So thank you guys for joining us. If you have any thoughts, make sure you drop them into the comments for either the YouTube upload or the official Instagram post about this episode. Rod just freaked me out because he just highlighted the entire text as I was reading it. I thought he was going to delete it. Yeah, it was you in red. That was all you. That was not me. If you like what you heard, we appreciate a rating on the podcast app of your choosing. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, and CastBox. And Rod is going to deny doing anything wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't access that, so I don't know.
Dude, it popped up red, so I gotta blame you.
I wonder if that was just delayed because I did close out of it.
Maybe it was you closing it.